kalau sudah dimulai, saya akan membawakan pembukaan dulu, lalu membacakan CV dari Zdenko dan juga semua panelis. Lalu habis itu langsung ke presentasinya Zdenko. Nah, setelah itu baru Q&A bersama panelis ya, Dok. Masing-masing panelisnya kita kasih dua slot pertanyaan untuk Zdenko.
Ya.
Hey, Dr. Nila.
Halo, sorry. Hai Zdenko, apa kabar? How are you?
Hello. Fine, thank you. Fine, thank you. Sorry, I interrupted Fasya.
Yes, no, it's okay. It's okay.
Halo Nila, how are you Nila?
Halo dok. Iya nih.
Biasanya kita ketemunya di chat-chatan aja ya.
Selalu cuma di chat atau di virtual meeting.
Virtual meeting.
Hey, Natalie.
Halo Natalie.
Dokter Natalie, virtual background-nya dimatiin aja, Dok.
Ya.
Natalie, your picture is too bright. It gets very contrast. So maybe you should reduce the light. It's
Background-nya dimatiin.
Caranya
Gimana ya?
Saya minta itu deh. Itu. Ya, yang kamu pegang. Yang dikotak-kotak.
Maju dong dok. Boleh? Boleh.
Fasya, you were having some introduction to panelists. Just continue, please.
Oke. Untuk Dokter Nila dan Dokter Natalie, bisa dengar suara aku?
Bisa.
Iya, jadi urutannya tadi aku sudah jelaskan ke Dokter Aryani. Jadi nanti pembukaannya kita akan putar 2 video dulu dari Fotona. Lalu setelah itu saya akan introduction pembukaan dulu, lalu pembacaan CV Zdenko dan seluruh panelis. Nah, setelah itu baru presentasi dari Zdenko selama kurang lebih 30-40 menit. Lalu setelah itu baru dari masing-masing panelis bisa menanyakan ke Zdenko ya pertanyaannya. Maksimal masing-masing 2 pertanyaan. Seperti itu.
Background-nya udah saya matiin, bisa nggak?
Oke, sebentar dok. Kita tinggal menunggu Dokter David.
Udah ya?
Oke, sudah.
Hey, that's good.
Nanti pada saat Q&A dengan panelis dan Zdenko, videonya akan saya buka seperti ini semua ya, kecuali video saya. Oke, apakah kita menunggu Dr. David Sudharto terlebih dulu ya? We're waiting for one more panelist.
Okay, and I see that you already have 50 participants joining us.
Yep.
Okay, that's good number. So no problems with this delay at the beginning we discussed. You can, when you decided that it's time, you can start.
Or can we just start playing the videos and go after that?
Yes, I believe, okay, 58, 59, I see that people are still joining in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long you will wait, definitely not to all 200 plus, but maybe you can wait a few more minutes that you will have at least 100.
Okay.
I don't know, you can observe at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can observe the number of participants. Now
already
it's 66, yeah, on my side. Yeah.
Okay, we can just start the video.
Okay.
Okay, so for all the panelists, I will stop your video, yeah?
Okay.
You just start sharing the screen, of course, and then it will go.
We're still waiting for the Dr. David.
But even if he joined later, it's not a big deal, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Wait a minute. Bang, cari aja.
Kamu habis ngapain? Belajar sama betul itu beresin konflik-konflik.
One that could even replace or come close to the Fotona. It's really my bread and butter machine because I use it every day, non-stop.
Using a Fotona laser is like driving a Lamborghini. And I often use that analogy to them because once you've had a Fotona laser, you really can't go back to using anything else. It really is the best system.
Fotona makes things that nobody else makes in the entire world.
Technology is a must, and Fotona is the master of technology in lasers.
I'm moving ahead of my practice, and I feel always with Fotona that I'm ahead of any competitors.
We choose Fotona, and right now we are really convinced that Fotona is the best laser brand in the world.
Our profits grows by at least 50% year-on-year basis since we acquire our Fotona system. We are very proud of what we have achieved, and more importantly, we are extremely thankful to Fotona.
The versatility of the machine is incredible. With Fotona, I keep learning something new every year, which is fantastic.
With SpDynamis and Star Walker, all my required wavelengths are taken care of.
The machine is like a full laser center.
The main thing I wanted, I was told that it's built like a German tank. And so I need something that is very robust.
And I can tell you, after many, many years of experience and many different kind of a system I try in my clinic, Fotona, every time I get a Fotona in my hands, I feel safe.
I love the machine, absolutely brilliant workhorse, and has made my business what it is today.
We have to say that our lasers are in function almost all day, every days of the week. So it's a huge part of our practice and our clinic.
And you can see now, we can do nose, we can do eyes from the both sides. Nobody, no competitors. And this is the best point to advertise. You don't have laser like that around the world.
Nowadays, SpDynamis represents the 80% of my revenue in my daily practice. So I'm completely satisfied with the results I'm getting with my SpDynamis. The laser that by far my patients love.
I think the efficiency, the effect, the quality of the treatments is helps my practice a lot.
We do 10 to 12 to 15 patients a day, every single day, 7 days a week. And I've had it for almost 2 years, and so far so good.
Being able to get into my clinic as number 15th and 16th laser. It's quite an achievement for Fotona.
Fotona was resources they offer.
They have a fantastic website where you can just go in and watch the videos and learn from them.
Not only the best system, but I love that Fotona offers so many different learning opportunities. So things like the LAHA conference and being able to learn and support and encourage other users to be the best that we can be.
Not a day goes by where I do not feel extremely proud to be part of the Fotona family, where users around the world are connected in such a close-knit manner.
So I chose the Fotona and I'm very, very happy with it. replace or come close.
Okay, for all the panelists and Zdenko, now I'm going to open the introduction, ya. I will be speaking in Bahasa and mixed with English, okay? Welcome to Dr. David Sudharto. Oke, terima kasih untuk para peserta yang sudah hadir. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat malam dan selamat datang untuk para peserta serta panelis yang terhormat yang sudah hadir. And also welcome and good afternoon to Zdenko Vizintin as our main speaker. It is really an honor to welcome you as our speaker. Pertama-tama saya ingin memperkenalkan diri secara singkat. Nama saya Fasya, saya perwakilan dari PT Admiral Blesensa Abadi. Di sini saya bertugas sebagai moderator di webinar ini. Sedikit penjelasan tentang PT Admiral Blesensa Abadi. Sedikit penjelasan tentang PT Admiral Blesensa Abadi. Perusahaan kami merupakan distributor tunggal laser Fotona di Indonesia, dan acara webinar ini menjadi acara seminar lanjutan dari rangkaian webinar-webinar yang telah dilakukan oleh Fotona sebelumnya. Webinarnya pastinya bertujuan untuk memberi informasi serta edukasi tentang Fotona laser. Terima kasih juga untuk rekan-rekan dokter yang sudah mendaftarkan diri dan meluangkan waktu untuk mengikuti webinar malam ini. Webinar malam ini diisi oleh pembicara terhormat dari Fotona, yaitu Mr. Zdenko Vizintin, yang akan membawakan topik The Highest Performance of Fotona PICO Laser, serta 4 panelis terhormat yaitu Dr. Amaranila Lalita Drijono, Dr. Aryani Sudharmono, Dr. David Sudharto Oeria, dan Dr. Natalia Wahyudi. Before the webinar starts, I'm going to read some information for Zdenko and all panelists. So please listen carefully. The presentation will be delivered by Zdenko as the main speaker of this webinar. And then we have limited Q&A time for Zdenko and all panelists, which is only 30 minutes. So after Zdenko presentation is done, each panelist can give Zdenko a maximum of only 2 questions. And then the first question will be given by Dr. Amaranila, and then Dr. Aryani Sudharmono, and then Dr. David Sudharto, and the last question will be given by Dr. Natalia Wahyudi. After all the questions from the panelists is answered, if we have enough time, Zdenko will answer a few questions from the participant. The unanswered questions from participant will be answered directly by email. Lalu ini adalah informasi untuk peserta. Peserta hanya bisa memberikan pertanyaan kepada Zdenko, bukan kepada panelis. Silahkan tulis pertanyaan di kolom Q&A seperti biasa. Lalu untuk pertanyaan yang tidak terjawab karena waktu yang tidak mencukupi, kami akan tampung dan akan kami jawab via email langsung peserta yang memberikan pertanyaan. Untuk pemberian e-sertifikat hanya akan kami berikan ke peserta yang mengisi survei setelah webinar selesai. Mohon cek kolom survei setelah webinar selesai. Okay, now I'm going to read the CV and profile from Zdenko and all the panelists. Okay, this is the profile from Zdenko. Zdenko Vizintin, BSII, MSc, MBA. Zdenko Vizintin has been working in laser technology for more than 40 years, having graduated from the Ljubljana Faculty of Electronics as an electronics engineer. Throughout his professional career, he has been deeply involved in R&D and production of various laser systems for different industries. In his current position in Fotona as Medical Laser Program Director, he is responsible for the application, development, and clinical affairs. And Zdenko is also a researcher and expert lecturer for Laser and Health Academy, well known as LAHA. In last years, Zdenko Vizintin is actively involved in new medical laser application development and validation through many clinical studies. He is the author and co-author of numerous laser engineering papers, as well as studies in the application of laser in medicine. In last year, Zdenko is deeply involved in development of novel minimally invasive laser therapies in gynecology. Since the launch of Fotona therapies in gynecology, Zdenko had presented this technology and clinical result on more than 50 workshops and congresses all around the world. The latest area of his investigation are the use of laser for the male health, hair regrowth, ENT, and ophthalmology. Lalu CV dan profil dari para panelis. Yang pertama adalah Dr. Amaranila Lalita Drijono, SpKK, FINSDV, FAADV, kelahiran Jakarta 10 September 1962. Education-nya adalah S1 Kedokteran Umum dan Spesialisasi Kulit Kelamin dari University of Indonesia. Organisasinya, beliau merupakan ketua dari KSDLI, yaitu Kelompok Studi Dermatologi Laser Indonesia. Beliau juga merupakan member dari ASLMS, AAD, dan juga faculty member dari DASIL, Dermatologic Aesthetic Surgery International League. Lalu yang selanjutnya, panelis selanjutnya adalah Dr. Aryani Sudharmono, SpKK, FINSDV, FAADV, kelahiran 5 Maret 1955. Untuk mempersingkat waktu, saya hanya akan membacakan recent position-nya saja, karena education-nya rekan dokter bisa melihat ya di sini. Untuk recent position yang sedang dipegang oleh Dr. Aryani Sudharmono, terbagi menjadi 2, nasional dan internasional. Beliau merupakan Presiden Director of PT Sarana Kirana Nirmala, lalu juga merupakan Presiden Director dari PT Senopati Santika Charma, Vice Chair of Indonesian Dermatology Laser Study Group, Lecturer of Dermatovenerology Department, Faculty of Medicine Hasanuddin University Makassar, Indonesia, and also a health program trainer. Untuk internasionalnya, beliau merupakan Board Advisory Member Botox Allergen Asia Pacific. Beliau juga merupakan call dari Venus Concept Canada Corporation, Key IMCAS Speaker. Lalu beliau juga merupakan Course Directors in International Master Course on Aging Skin Asia, Bali. Ini adalah organisasi atau membership yang dipegang oleh Dr. Aryani. Saya hanya akan membacakan singkatannya saja untuk mempersingkat waktu. Beliau merupakan member dari ID, Perdoski, KSDLI, Iklasi, ASLMS, IACD, ISDS, EADV, AAD, dan juga ASDS. Lalu masuk ke panelis kita yang ketiga, yaitu Dr. David Sudharto, Oeria, MD, SpKK, FINSDV, FAADV, kelahiran 15 Mei 1956. Recent position yang sedang dipegang oleh Dr. David Sudharto adalah Chairman Department of Dermatology and Venerology, Medical School Wijaya Kusuma, University Surabaya, Trainer of Botox Cosmetic Techniques Allergan USA, International Trainer in Dermatologic Surgery, Faculty of Dermatologic Surgery and Aesthetic Surgery League or DASIL, Faculty of IMCAS, and also Faculty of ISDS. Berikut adalah membership dari Dr. David yang sangat banyak. Saya akan, untuk mempersingkat waktu, akan saya bacakan 3 teratas saja ya, yaitu organisasi nasionalnya, beliau merupakan member dari ID, Perdoski, Kelompok Studi Tumor dan Bedah Kulit Perdoski. Lalu internasionalnya, beliau merupakan member dari American Academy of Dermatology, European Academy of Dermatovenerology, International Society for Dermatologic Surgery, dan masih banyak membership yang dipegang oleh Dr. David Sudharto. Lalu yang terakhir, panelis kita yang terakhir adalah Dr. Natalia Wahyudi, SpKK, FINSDV, FAADV, kelahiran 29 Desember 1969. Recent position-nya, Dr. Natalie merupakan Lecturer of Medical Faculty of Frida Wacana Christian University dari tahun 2016 sampai sekarang, Dermatologist Consultant in Rahel Clinic di Bandar Lampung. Lalu beliau juga merupakan Chief of Dermatovenerology Department in Immanuel Hospital Bandar Lampung. Untuk organisasinya, beliau merupakan member dari Indonesian Medical Doctor Association, Perdoski Bandar Lampung, KSDLI, AAD, American Society for Dermatologic Surgery, and also beliau juga merupakan member dari European Academy of Dermatology and Venerology. Ya, sekian pembacaan CV dari dari semua panelis dan juga Zdenko. Sekarang Zdenko bisa memulai presentasinya. So Zdenko, you can start your presentation now. I will give you the host ya. Okay.
Okay, I can see.
Okay,
Thank you.
Zdenko, you can start.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I heard a nice introduction by Fasya about company with the videos and also about myself, so I will just go into the topic. The topic today is our Starwalker PQX laser, our first fully PICO laser on the market, which we launched this year in January on IMCAS meeting in Paris. So it's a brand new. We produced it already and it was already delivered in, I would say, 10 different countries. So it begins its life on the market. There is a short video here, but as I saw that Fasya already presented, I will just skip this video to spare some time, and I will go through the presentation. So the first part of my presentation consists of technical features, or what are the nice points of this laser in PICO world. So my claim, or our claim, is that in this moment, this is the highest performance, best made PICO laser in the world. And Fotona is proud that we are producing products taking into account all the ecological, how to say, guidance, and also serving as a green company as well. So we are doing sustainable manufacturing, recyclable titanium and aluminum alloys, and limiting our use of plastic parts, no consumables. So this laser is based on Nd:YAG as a basic wavelength, neodymium-YAG 1064, and this is the most powerful PICO Nd:YAG in this moment for optimal removal of tattoos and pigmented lesions. These are main groups of applications. When I said the most powerful, I have to support it with some data. So here what you can see is the basic technical data of this system. Of course, whoever has a 1064 nanometers Nd:YAG also is providing a 532 nanometers green light of KTP. And you can see that maximum energy here is 800 millijoules. The pico pulse duration is 300 picoseconds, and the maximum peak power for Nd:YAG is 2.7 gigawatts. It's really extreme power, and it was not easy to make such optics which will survive for a long time, this kind of peak power going through the optics. Of course, KTP is usually half lower in power, but considering the pico pulse duration, it's on the same level. Usually people ask about comparison with other products on the market. So here I'm just giving you an overview of 7-8 competitors which are present on the global market. I'm sure also present in your country. And some of the lasers which came first out were relatively long pulsed, if you are talking about picosecond, and relatively weak in peak power on the energy in total. But later, when the other came in on the market, they become shorter and also higher. In this moment, what we are producing is 300 picoseconds and 2.7 gigawatts. And we are able, this is a special, I'm especially proud on this feature of our research and development, that they succeeded to make this laser in a very small box, very light box, which can be connected to practically any ordinary power supply. So it's the smallest in size, it's lightest if you compare with these other manufacturers' products. For example, it's 68 kilos in comparison to 170. And when we are talking about power consumption, of course, it's also very big difference there. One of the features of our laser, which is very nice for the users who has to work long time with this laser, is this ergonomic design of articulated arm. We call this arm OptoFlex arm. It's our patented solution for the optimal handling it. You can notice that it doesn't have a counterweight, which is a standard solution. In some other our systems, we have still counterweight like in Dynamics, but in our Q-switch system, we introduced this OptoFlex arm several years ago, and it showed to be really nice and very ergonomic. So when you are working with it, you don't get a lot of resistance from the arm that you have to fight against your system. Another feature which is present in all of our lasers, including our PICO system, is this very nice feature which we called multi-channel energy feedback control. What does it mean? It means online self-calibration. And this self-calibration is done on the optical beam coming out from the cavity, not on a measuring of current or voltage, because these are indirect values. What we are looking at, we are looking into real energy of the laser beam coming out. We are taking a small fragments of this laser beam in measuring in 2 locations, because if you have just one, it can, by time, by temperature, it can change its features. So if you have 2, you can compare them and you can control that you are measuring actually this energy very precisely. And then when you have measured your energy of the beam, you compare this energy with what was set up on the control panel on your laser. And if there is a difference which overcomes 10%, then laser power supply compensate and align. So recalibrate internally. You don't need to go with your handpiece into some external calibrator to recalibrate. It is all done online, and for every pulse you are shooting is measured and checked if the energy is proper. What does it give you? It gives you safety in your operation and also reliability of the results. Because what can happen if the laser is not all the time? When I'm talking all the time, it's a full day of operation. For example, if you work 8 to 10 hours, this laser has to have a constant energy through all this period of time, not to get, because of warming up or whatever, starting to lose the output energy. And if you're losing your output energy, you are also losing your effect and result. So this is a solution which we introduced quite some time ago. We have this in every Fotona laser, and we have it now also in PICO laser. Of course, introduction of such a complex system is not cheap, but it is giving you a peace of mind. When you set your fluence, this fluence will hold all the time of your working. Another nice feature which we introduced already in a predecessor of our PICO laser, which was called Starwalker MACUX, is this new revolutionary, I would say, pulse shaping control and also power supplied behind it. So we call this adaptive structure pulse technology. It can produce pulses of very different shapes. Of course, here in PICO, we are looking just into the short pulse with a very nice single peak structure. And what is other benefit here is the power supply, which is very efficient. This is also why we can have so small box, because most of the other manufacturers spend a lot of space and also a lot of electrical current to produce enough power for the laser cavity. Here, we don't need it. We have a much smaller power supply package, and because of that, much smaller box. And not only that, it has the most silent operation. Because when you are taking electrical power from the grid and you have converted it inside your system to the voltages and currents which you are needed for your laser, you have a lot of losses. The efficiency actually of conversion of energy from electrical energy to laser energy is very low. You get out like 3 to 5% only, which means that like 95% of introduced energy is then transferred to the heat. And if you have such heat, I would say losses, you have to take away this heat from your box. And this is why people usually have very strong fans on the back of the lasers. And these fans sometimes are quite noisy. So if you are able to reduce your power supply to smaller size and then to make a more efficient conversion of the energy, then you can also have not only small box, but you can also have very silent operation. You can see when you work with our laser that actually you don't know when it is active or when it is in standby because it is so silent. The next feature for this laser is that we introduced to it a lot of different handpieces and spot sizes because of different applications, of course. And not only that we have a large scale, which I will present to you, but also we are always aiming to the beam profile. So beam profile is a thing which is very important for you, for users, because it is giving you again some kind of peace of mind and uniform results. If you don't have a uniform profile, you can have some hotspots in the beam, which can cause some adverse effects. It can cause maybe some petechia, it can cause some burns. Or if you have a holes in the beam that it is not uniform, you have some less energy, you can remain without your result on this particular place. So this is why the beam profiles to be flat and to be even, homogeneous, are very important. Of course, again, to achieve a good beam profile, you have to invest something in your optics. And this is a screen of our PICO laser. You can see here open this menu of the handpieces, and you can see some new names for the guys who already are users and know some other names. We call these handpieces like green and black and so on. And I will go very briefly through a few of them. Of these handpieces, the basic handpieces which you get when you get the laser are these two. One is for neodymium YAG and the other is for the KTP. This is why we call them black and green. It's simpler than to give them some other abbreviation name. And what is interesting, we have a square spots here. The spots are not round but square. There are several reasons for that, including homogeneity of the beam. But also, if you are covering some area with the beams and try to do minimal overlapping with the square spot, you can do this very accurately and nicely. And also the coverage of the area, if you said that you have a 3 millimeter spot, it's a larger area than 3 millimeter round spot. There are this kind of reasons for it. But the main reason why we have it is in a way how we are making this beam very homogeneous, because of some optical elements which we are using here built in. These elements are called DOE, it's diffractive optic elements, which are producing this kind of very uniform beam profile. At the same time, these elements are by default producing the square shape. So we decided to keep the square shape because of these other advantages. Of course, we can use some screening element there, and we can produce the round spot if it will be beneficial, but it is not. Going back to the other features, you can see here the spot size range. So we have this kind of squares going from 3 by 3 up to 10 by 10 millimeter. I will show you the full range on the next slides. Considering the fluence range, with this one, we can go from 0.1 to 7.6 joules per centimeter square. And then we have some other handpieces when you can go even higher, and some handpieces when you can go even lower, because both sides of this fluence range is interesting for particular applications. As you know, with the Nd:YAG, you can usually do tattoo removals, but you can do also pigments, you can do tonic, rejuvenation, you can do also scars and other things. Moving to KTP, the concept is the same, the spot sizes are the same, the range of fluences is lower because, of course, the energy is half of the energy of the Nd:YAG. And you can see here that the range is going from 0.5 to 2.8 joules per centimeter. Again, with some other handpieces, we have larger here if needed. Why we are using KTP in tattoo removal, we are using particular colors like red and orange. Then in epidermal lesions, in toning, and also in some other applications. The next handpiece, which is full spot, we call it duo, and it can be either duo dot or duo high. We have two particular optics here. With the duo dot, you have a range of spots from 1 to 3, and this handpiece is carrying both wavelengths. It is carrying Nd:YAG and also KTP. And this duo dot has some medium range of fluences, including some low fluences for small spots. Especially in your region, in Asia, people are looking for some small pigmented lesions like freckles or some small spots of hoary nevus, where you need some small spots, and then you need to have some relatively low fluence, but also some decent fluence to remove this kind of pigment. So this is one of the purposes of this handpiece. On the other side, with the duo high, which has a 2 millimeter spot, we can go very high with the fluences. And this is when we need some kind of ablation to do, or we have to break some very deep resistant tattoo. So you can go up to 20 joules per centimeter square in the AG and up to 8 joules here with the KTP. So in a basic set, you get actually these 2 hand pieces, and then everything else you can get if you desire to make your configuration richer. The next page is talking about our fractional hand pieces. Similarly, like in past on our system, we have several hand pieces in fractional field. The first one, which I'm showing here, is black F5. This F stands for fractional, 5 stands for 5 by 5 microspots, and also 5 by 5 millimeters. So this handpiece has 25 pixels. It is of this kind of footprint, 5 by 5 millimeters. And in the last, I would say, 10 years, when people start to use fractional handpieces also in this region of medicine, like in dermatology and aesthetic, we changed the expression of intensity. Here, for example, you can see that intensity is presented in fluence in joules per centimeter square, while here we are talking about millijoules per pixel, energy of millijoules per pixel. This is more accurate, and this is also more comparable. If you're looking at different articles, different methodologies, how the studies are done, it's much more reliable to have exact values of millijoules per pixel. Pixels are about 100 micrometers in our handpieces. So 100 micrometers, and these 100 micrometers, if you get this energy, you can calculate your fluence. Fluences are here higher, of course. They can go in 10th of joules and even in 100 of joule per centimeter square per pixel. This is also why expression in millijoules is more convenient. Aside of black F5, we have also black F9. And for our users of other systems, they know that we have always these 2 kinds of combination because there are some benefits to have them. What means F9? Fractional 9 by 9 millimeters and 9 by 9 pixels, which represent 81 pixels. So with this one, of course, we can cover areas, larger areas quicker than with the 5 by 5. But of course, we cannot have so strong pixels because we divide the energy which enters the handpiece. Now we divide with 81 pixels. And here the full energy is divided with 25 pixels. So the ratio between 25 and 81 is more than 3. It's like 3.5. So it can be 3.5 times stronger here than on this side. But this range of fluences is sufficient for most of the applications written down there, like fractal, rejuvenation, pigment, scar toning. It is quite sufficient. Only in the applications when we need really strong, I will show you some pictures, when we need a strong energy per pixel, and this is only for ablative purposes, then this came in a play as a stronger one. But already with this kind of energy, you can do ablation. And of course, for the KTP, we have also the fractional handpiece, which is 5 by 5. This is why it is called F5 with 25 pixels. The range of energies per pixel are quite high, and it is also good for not only for tattoos, for this fractal, but also for rejuvenation, toning, pigmented lesions, epidermal lesions, and so on. This table is just giving you a little broader overview with all the spots. As I know that this webinar is recorded, you can get, of course, all of this data later on again. And also our partner, ABBA, they have original of this PowerPoint. So if someone is interested in this particular table, you can get it. I will not go in all the details, but you can see here that spots are going 3 by 3, 4 by 4, 6 by 6, 8 by 8, 10 by 10. And in a basic set, you get this smaller 2 and you get 8 by 8. You can get additionally 6 by 6 or 10 by 10 according to your most frequently used applications. I mentioned already diffractive optic element as a pixelation tool, pixelation mechanism. We use this in our fractional handpieces. And what does it gives you? It gives you excellently uniform microbeams. You don't have some holes in the beam and so on. Namely, some of you or most of you knows that there are two basic techniques how to fractionate the beam. One is using this diffractive optic element, and the other is by using a micro lens array. Micro lens array has some advantages, but also it has some disadvantages like non-uniformity inside the beam. When we are working with the full spots, this non-uniformity is also critical. But when you are working with the fractional, then it can be even more critical because some of these pixels can be missing and some can be very strong. Well, it is more, how to say, the difference is bigger when you are using higher intensities. When you start using low intensity beams, then this non-uniformity is less visible. However, we are going for the best, most possible profiles, and this is why these fractal optic elements are there. What you can do with this kind of fractional handpieces, among other things, is of course generation of these light-induced optical breakdowns, LIOBs. This is an example of LIOBs, which you can see here in the level of epidermis. If you have a different spacer, you can go deeper in dermis. And this is an idea how to do a rejuvenation of the skin of minimally invasive way, not to break up the skin, just to do a small injuries under the skin. And by regeneration of these injuries, you get some rejuvenation. Fotona is, I think, the only one company which is doing also ablative treatment with the Q-switch fractional lasers. So we have enough power, we have enough energy that we can break the epidermis, we can break and you can make deeper holes here. So this is ablative fractional treatment. Why people would like to do this? There are several applications where this is interesting. And we started this technology for tattoo removal. In tattoo removal, we find out that if we do pre-drilling of the skin before we use a full spot, fractional pre-drilling of the skin, we are getting much better clearance rate from several reasons. One is that through these holes, you get out the gases which are developing after you shooting on pigment, it breaks and also it develops the gases like nitrogen, which are producing for most of you a very well known effect called the frosting. And this frosting is occluding the remaining pigment. You cannot shoot on the pigment again until this frosting is cleared, and it takes some time to get cleared. But if you drill the hole into your epidermis coming deeper down, these gases come out practically immediately, and you can do multiple passes treatment with full spot, meaning you are improving the rate of clearance of your tattoos. Later, we start to do also this on pigments. It is also very good, this which we call fractat. It's very good to do the better clearance rate of pigments if you are doing more aggressive treatment. And what we discovered also some 5-6 years ago is that this kind of fractional resurfacing of the scars is giving a very good result. So with a scar, sorry. We are using a fractal technique. We are using a fractional drilling of the skin with the Q-switch lasers, with PICO lasers also for scar revision. So to summarize, we have a very precise, true flat top handpieces based on the state-of-the-art technology. And of course, all of our handpieces are connected through the cable, through electronics to the laser, and laser has a handpiece and spot size detection. So there is no possibility of mismatching the spots with what is set on the screen. For our users, we have a lot of instructional videos on the internet, and I will just demonstrate you here how you can take a look into these handpieces to get a little bit better idea how they look like, how you assemble them. And if I just click on this link, I will enter the web page on which you have all of these short videos. And for example, you can just open one for demonstration. It's about 1 minute video. You can see, I will just skip some introduction here. As I mentioned, we have a lot of hand pieces. You can see here a large selection of hand pieces. The mechanism of connection to the articulated arm is a click on. You just click it on. You don't need to screw it. And then this hand pieces has segments. For example, here you have two bodies. One is black and the other is green, NDAG and KTP. Then we have optics, which are defining the spot size, and the spacers, which are giving you the proper spot size and proper distance. So for example, if you want to set together your black handpiece with 8mm spot, you take NDAG body, connect with 8mm spot. You can see here two colors, black and green. So this optics is good for both of the wavelengths. And then you select your spacer. On spacer, you have markings which are telling you which spot size this is. And this is your handpiece. So you assemble this handpiece very simply. If you have to change the spot size, you just change these two parts and that's it. Okay, this was just a short demonstration. And for every handpiece and different spots, you have this as well as for some other features. Next thing about our PICO laser is that in this moment it delivers two wavelengths, NDAG and KTP, but very soon we are coming out with two additional colors with the 650 and 585. And both of these and the third one, which is following, 785, all of them will be in a PICO range as well. So it will be of similar PICO duration as our NDAG and KTP. So why you need the different wavelengths? As you well know, we have different absorption in different chromophores, including pigments and including colors of the ink of tattoo. And with additional wavelengths, you are able to clear the full range of colors for tattoos. And you can be more efficient to some pigments with maybe these two wavelengths as well. A feature which I already briefly mentioned and which we are very proud of is called fractat. So we have a unique and patented protocol for pigmentations, tattoos, and scars, where we are doing a drilling of the skin with the Q-switch power, either nanosecond or picosecond Q-switch. Again, I believe we are the only one which can produce the drilling with the PICO laser, fractional drilling. And it is used to prepare the skin either for a full beam for tattoos and pigments, either just using it for the scar revision. This is our US patent. It is from year 2016, and we have also a European patent for this solution. There is one novelty which we are introducing in this laser, and this novelty will be also available for our older lasers. We call this tube spacer. And as you can see here, instead of a stick spacer, here we put a tube. And what is the purpose of this tube is when you lean on the skin with this, so when you press it on the skin, it will shut down or very much reduce the sound. Namely, when you are doing this fractal technique, when you are shooting on the skin, sometimes the sound is very loud, and some people, patient, can be a little bit frightened of the sound. If you put this tube on, you actually not really mute, but you muffle down the sound very significantly. This is one thing. And the second thing, when you are doing the drilling of the skin, you have some bleeding because this is a totally cold interaction. You have some pinpoint bleeding, and this tube actually keeps it inside. It is not splattering around. It's a reusable tube, so you can clean it, wash it, and disinfect it. And this ring you can also sterilize. Going further on to the features of this laser, I would like to mention the intuitive user interface with a special emphasis of ease of use. So our features, applications are here on this drop-down menu. You just select it, and for each of one we have preset parameters. So For the beginners, you just select your particular application, and the laser will offer you the parameters which will best suit this particular application. This will be efficacious and safe. The other selection here is for wavelength and also for handpieces, and here we have some additional nice features like history. This was introduced recently in our systems, and you have a history of patients and also of treatments. For every treatment, everything is recording. The memory capacity is huge, so you can put a lot of data here in. And I will demonstrate to you how you can use this. And I hope you will see the benefits of it easily. So if we are looking here for history log, for example, let me just start this one. In all of this instructional video, there is a few seconds of introduction. I don't like it, but it is always present there. And the real thing starts here. So you click upon this icon, which shows the clock, and you can see the history. Now, how to come to your desired data about this history? What you have to do, you choose your date. If you know the date when you treated your patient, you choose the date. And when you choose the date, you get only the treatment from this particular date. And probably there are not so many, but you can also choose your patient. If you select your patient, you get how this patient was treated, exact information. You can select some other patients which were not there, if it is not the date. This particular patient was treated, and the nice benefit of it is as well that you can, what you can then do is actually you can use the same settings. If you are continuing treatment, the same settings, you just press this small arrow here and you get on the screen the same settings as you used last time. So very, very nice feature for documenting the treatment and easier finding your setting for particular patients. So some kind of summary of these technical features given on this slide. I have here 6 things which are features which are giving you actually efficient, faster treatment with the widest range of application, and it also offers you a high return on investment if you can have such kind of features, which is the highest energy, highest peak power, largest range of spot sizes, larger choice of handpieces, unique fractal capability, and unique combined treatments, full spot combined, and so on. The next group of features like best beam profile, ASP technology, unique online self-calibration is giving you safety and consistent result. And then the last group of features is giving you some comfort during the work, some safety during the work. It's practical and economical, and these features are ergonomy of the arm, smaller size and weight, just 68 kilos. Also the footprint in your rooms are very small. It doesn't take a lot of space in the room. It's the lowest power consumption. It is just 16 amps on whichever of this voltage, and it gives you the most silent operation. I think that these features are quite unique, and that no other product in this range can achieve this. Moving to the second part is about applications. As you know, there is 2 basic groups of application for PICO systems, skin lesions or pigmentations and tattoo removal. But of course, there are others as well. And when you start using your laser, you would like to introduce your own names of the protocols, your own features. And I would like to show you here an example of our users in Malaysia, how they define the protocols, aside of what we give as our presets. This is a kind of treatment guideline for this particular laser, and they said whitening and rejuvenation, or toning, however you call it. And they give a name. Their name for this kind of procedure is Fair Angel, with the 2 steps. They use a black handpiece with 8x8 and 4x4. It depends of area on the face or wherever they do this. They offer you the range of the fluencies, and when they start working, they start usually with the lower, and then they are increasing as much as they can regarding the patient comfort. The frequency is dependent on the skill of the user, of course. And then the number of passes, endpoint, recommended number of sessions, recommended time interval. So this is a kind of treatment guideline for whitening and toning if you are using this for Angel. And this kind of protocol is possible to program in your laser and to select it among your favorites. For pigmentations like melasma and PIH, and what they said on targeted pigments only, it means that you don't treat the full face with this kind of settings, but you go just after pigments, and then probably you do the second thing as a whitening of the whole face. Again, the similar kind of description, which is quite practical. What else these guys are doing quite often? They said epidermal lesions like freckles, solar antigenes, cafe au lait, age spots, and so on. Here you can see the introduction of the third handpiece, duodot, with the KTP, with a relatively low fluence, spots 1 to 3. They are doing all of these pigments if they are epidermal. Again, the short description is there. For dermal lesions, again, you can see here a black handpiece and the duodot and even duo high if needed for some higher fluencies, like you can see here. Endpoints here can be pinpoint bleeding and severe petechia, but you have to go deeper. For tattoo removal, their description of the fractat is these 2 steps. If people don't do pre-drilling, you go just after second step. And you can see here black handpiece, green handpiece, and duo high as well for some stubborn pigmentations. For the fractat, you can see the millijoules here described. For drilling, sometimes people go deeper if they want to be more aggressive. Namely, I mentioned the function of this pre-drilling as a gas conduits. But of course, if you go with the deeper drilling, you also eliminate part of the pigment. So not only that you open the gas conduits for the gases to come out, but you can also fractionally remove part of these pigments. One also the interesting things which we notice is that because it's a cold ablation, you have some bleeding, which is pinpoint bleeding, nothing special. But with this bleeding, you get a part of these broken pigments out through the skin. Namely, if you do just, let's say, closed skin tattoo removal or pigment removal, your broken pigment or ink will be taken away from this site, from this location of the body, will be taken away with your internal body mechanism, and it will go through lymph to some other places, like in lymph nodes. It will not go out through the skin like here. If you do this pre-drilling, you can take a part of ink through the skin out. We noticed this by chance, because when we're using some gauzes to let's say, press on these bleeding pinpoints, when we're changing this gauze, we notice that it is not just bloody, but it is also black because of the black ink coming out. Okay, for going further on, the protocols which our partners from Malaysia introduce in their systems are also active acne treatment and acne scar reduction.
Hello,
So
Zdenko. Sorry
Hello.
to bother you. Your presentation time is only 10 minutes more, yeah?
Yeah, I'm closing. I'm very quick to the end. Don't worry.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for warning me, because I don't have a clock in front of me. I'm in full screen. I don't see it actually. I'm just going by feeling.
Okay.
So going back to these 2 applications, active acne with NdAg with a smaller spot on each acne pustula, shooting this kind of settings, you get some erythema and surrounding lesion darkening. And it is efficacious also for active acne. If you have acne scars, what we are doing, we are drilling. You can see here this fractional handpiece is black F5, because F5 is for stronger settings. And you can go either just for erythema, or you can go for pinpoint bleeding if you go more aggressive. The mechanism here is the remodeling of the collagen, of course. Last but not least, they introduced also the protocol for large pore reduction. For sensitive skin, they have, let's say, a little bit lower settings than for normal skin. What they use fractional F5 and DIAG and in both situations. So again here, I can show you in 1 minute how you introduce your own favorite settings in, adding new favorites. I will try to speed up and to jump across this introduction. Maybe somewhere here. It is still lasting the introduction. Okay, so if you are going to set up, let's say, these settings, which are different than presets, you enter your menu for entering the favorites, like my settings. You can name it however you want. You can name it melasma, you can name it freckles or whatever. And then when you have them set, let me see. Again, he set my settings. He confirmed them. Okay, this is the whole group. And entering some more. So you can form the group, and inside the group you can have the steps. Enter all of the steps. I would say it's quite simple. You can see here how it looks like. And then you have them also here. You just press it and you get your settings set up. So I will just go back to my presentation. It's very easy. All of these things actually are in our manuals, but people usually don't read manuals. This is why we produce these short videos, which can help you to do this. What I would like to show you here is also a short video from one of our customers in Malaysia, how they start using our PICO laser and what they are saying about it.
Welcome to Co-Skin Specialist. Today, I would like to introduce you to the latest picosecond laser in the market, Fotona PICO-X.
Maybe some of you can recognize this clinic. Dr. Ko is very famous and he has a chain of, I think, about 20
PICO-X is one of the best PICO lasers in the market. It is a powerful European-made machine developed by Fotona, who has had 60 years of history in developing high-technology lasers. Therefore, we are very proud to bring to you the first of its kind in Southeast Asia. Fotona PICO-X has a stable energy emitting platform. It is currently the most powerful picosecond laser in the market, and it delivers the shortest pulse duration. Therefore, it is able to deliver consistent results at every session. Fotona PICO-X is used to treat all types of pigmentation. It is also capable to remove even the most stubborn pigments and complex multicolored tattoos. Fotona PICO-X gives you a very comfortable laser experience, even without the use of a numbing cream. Redness after laser resolves within 24 hours. And results can be seen even after a single session. Just imagine this jelly is our skin. As you can see, PICO-X responds only to the colored paper. PICO-X accurately breaks and shatters skin pigments in every skin layer without hurting the surrounding skin tissues. Once they are broken into dust-sized particles, our body will naturally eliminate the pigments. Over time, they will be completely removed.
Okay, you get an idea how they promote it, but also they showed some features and they showed some of the treatments as well. So moving on with these applications, I would just spend a few minutes on tattoo removal, although I know that in your region the most interesting application is pigmentations, but still I can show you here two very short videos from Hong Kong. Our partner is Hong Kong, using here 4x4 black NDAG treatment going across this tattoos part only. And you go precisely across it. But if you have a bigger spot and your settings some medium strong, you can go also in this brushing mode. You can see that when you are using brushing mode, actually only the pigmented areas is reacting with the frosting. The skin in between is practically intact. If you go across the skin which doesn't have a pigment, there is no reaction there. And then also this very light grayish also reacts very strongly. So this is tattoo removal in classical way without the pre-drilling. It is your own choice if you will go with the pre-drilling and be more aggressive, or if you go in this way. If you go in this way, you will need more sessions, of course. But you can see very nice uniformity of the beam and very, how to say, quick procedure of it. So this table is one of my last slides. It's showing actually which of the hand pieces we are recommending for which of the group of applications. And you can see for pigmented lesions, you can use all of them. Some people like to do a very mild, very low intensity fractional treatment, either with Nd:YAG or KTP on some pigmentations. But of course, you can go with the full spots and you can go stronger as well. For tattoo removal, we use this 2-1, but for fractat, pre-drilling, we use also the fractional drilling as well. For scars, you can see mostly fractional drilling. And for rejuvenation and toning, all of this either fractional or full spots are used, except for duodot, which is a smaller spots. Smaller spots are meant for some particular discrete small pigmented lesions or some tattoos. So with this, I'm completing the presentation with this overview, and in this moment, I think we can go to the next part, which is questions and answers. So Faiza, now it's
Okay.
your turn, or our panelist turn to come with the questions.
Okay, for the panelists, please unmute your sound.
Okay, so don't be shy.
Okay, for the first time, please, Dr. Amaranila, you can start question to Zdenko.
Oke, terima kasih Fasya, izin Dr. Aryani dan yang lain. So congratulations Zdenko for the very impressive presentation, and of course very impressive mission. So, but I just so many the variety of using how you use the handpiece. Sometimes it's also not only fascinating us, but also sometimes frightening us. So that's why I would like to ask you a question. So if you have a patient, with especially Asian skin type, of course we choose PICO because theoretically, of course, not so many traumatic injuries around the lesion. But if we have an Asian patient with a dermal melasma, when I saw the one from the Malaysia clinic,
yes,
that mentioned about they use black F5, black F9, yeah. So I just wonder that if it is dermal melasma, that if we just use the black F5 or black F9, so it means that we allow the process of clearing the debris itself, so without any intervention. Correct me if I'm wrong. So in your experience, do you have do you have a comparison result between if we use F5 or F9 compare if we use the conventional
full spot, yeah.
Yes, full spot. So which one,
Yeah,
especially for Asian?
Yes, yes. I understood your point and also the comment that it can be frightening. But I think when people start using these handpieces, very shortly they become very familiar, and then it's easy. But going to the melasma issue, which is usually most common question, is the most interesting application. I believe that also these guys in Kuala Lumpur, they use the combined approach, not only fractional, but also full spot, but it was not all shown on this short video. So what we did in last 2-3 years was developing a more complex protocol for treatment of melasma, which we called MACUX Clear. And it consists of 4 steps in one visit. And in these 4 steps, we use also fractional handpiece and also full spot handpiece. So with each of them, we are achieving something. So there are different effects inside the skin with both of them. Maybe I can find somewhere some picture of the ladies immediately after. This is quite, strong erythema, but we stay still on non-ablative side of the fractional, so it is not bleeding or whatever. And the results are very good. What is especially puzzling me is that the results are relatively long-lasting. So with this combined treatment, which we are offering, actually we are getting results which last a year and even more of clearance. Usually, as you well know, when you treat it with the Q-switch lasers, you get improvement, and then by time it comes back and you need some maintenance. So I believe that this combination of fractional and full spot is better than each of them, single fractional or single full spot. And then, as you well know, if you use the full spots, people have all range of aggressivity, going from very mild, like toning, many sessions per period of time, or going with just a few more aggressive sessions. It is always discussion between patient and yourself to define the level of aggressivity, how you will go. I remember visiting some doctors in Singapore, which are showing me very, almost bloody faces with full spot petechias, but they showed excellent result after single treatment. Of course, the downtime was 2-3 weeks. And the other group, which is the majority, I would say like 80% of users, they are doing a very light intensity multiple sessions. So you can choose in between them. Now, what is different with PICO is that actually you eliminate even this small thermal effect of nanosecond lasers. When PICOs came into the market, the first manufacturers were exaggerating the difference between nano and PICO lasers. They tried to build a big story on a difference in thermal effect. There is a difference, but this difference, I would say, is not so strong. There are other features which I appreciate more in PICOs, and these are high peak power, which can cause some breakage of the pigment and of the ink, better than lower peak power. But thermal effect itself is not so significantly important, in my personal opinion. So if you have like 5 nanosecond laser and a 700 picosecond laser, the difference is not so huge. And the thermal effect in both of them will be very low. But when the PICOs came into the market, most of my manufacturers start to exaggerate, and some of them even start to call nanosecond laser as a warm laser or hot laser, which is a nonsense. So going back to melasma, what is the difference is that you get a little bit colder treatment. But even with the nanosecond lasers, it's cold enough if you look into only this component. What I see as a benefit is a stronger peak power, which is breaking more efficiently the small, these granules of tattoos and the ink.
Okay, thank you, Zdenko. So one question, because I'm very fascinated with tattoo removal, but our problem also in Indonesia is we have seen so many cases of ochronosis. So do you think that your fractal can remove this ochronosis problem?
I'm not so familiar with ochronosis. I know it is rather rare in comparison to the other pigment issues, but I believe it can help. I don't have case to send you, like described case, but I don't see why not. I know it's quite resistant one, but if you go with the fractional drilling of the lesion and then with the normal full spot, you will get. The thing is that this frosting effect actually occludes possibility to go second pass. And this is what you can do in fractal technique.
Yeah. Thank you, Zdenko. I'm looking forward
You're welcome.
to use it, of course. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you will start to use it soon. Thank you for your questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nila. Next for Dr. Aryani, please question to Zdenko. Please give your question to Zdenko.
Okay. Mr. Zdenko, congratulations to you for this very spectacular machine, the Star Walker Pico second laser. I'm very happy because in this Pico second laser, I compare with other Pico laser in the market that you have the lowest, the shortest pulse duration and the highest peak power. I hope that with this kind of combination of the shortest peak power, shortest pulse duration and highest peak power, I can treat the very difficult cases without side effect or complication, or with minimal side effect or complication. As you know that in Asian skin is very easy to get PIH or even scarring when we use with like Q-switch ruby laser. That's still a workhorse for pigmentation and even melasma in Indonesia or in Asia. So, and I like Pico. What I like from the Pico laser, because I already working with Pico laser for 2 years. 2 years, for 2 years, that I can get the very minimal ablative. So I can limiting the downtime period and good result. So for example, I treating scar, so even hypertrophic scar or hip hypertrophic scar or pigmented scar, I can treat it with Pico laser with minimal downtime, not like I do with non-ablative fractional or fractional non-ablative or ablative fractional laser. So in my opinion, Pico second laser is a one alternative for the patient to get the good result, the maximal result without a downtime or minimal downtime. But you explained to me that with this laser, your laser, Star Walker, we can get pinpoint bleeding. Pinpoint bleeding usually is a target when we use nanosecond laser. So what is the reason your target with this laser is pinpoint bleeding, and the downtime, according to you, can stay 2 to 3 weeks. So can you explain to me?
Yeah. No, you probably misunderstood this 2 to 3 weeks. This was for very aggressive treatment. So it is not always the goal to achieve the pinpoint bleeding. So you can use a fractional pico wavelengths like Nd:AG and even KTP. You can use non-ablatively fully, especially when you are going after LIOBs. So to produce some micro damages under the surface of the skin, there is no pinpoint bleeding. There is no bleeding at all. The only thing which you will get is a mild erythema. But if you want to be more aggressive, for example, treating the scars, or if you go after these tattoos or whatever, and you want to do actually more breakage, then you can get to this level as an endpoint to say, okay, my endpoint will be pinpoint bleeding. But this is in some specific cases which you decide to do. It's not if you go to do toning or whatever else you are doing, which is normally non-ablative without bleeding, you don't have this. And what I mentioned this case from Singapore when I visit one plastic surgeon, he was showing me his treatment of melasma with the full spot. This was like several years ago. And he got very, how to say, visible petechia and bleeding, pinpoint bleeding after this treatment. But he said, I am doing just single treatment for these ladies, and then they are good for a long time. I mentioned this as an extreme. Not many people will decide to do this, and not many patients will accept this. So probably a little bit of misunderstanding. Sorry for this.
Yeah. No, I mean pinpoint bleeding is one of the cause you will get, or your patient will get the PIH. So I can get the pinpoint bleeding when I did fractional ablative CO2 laser to my patients with scar, hypertrophic scar, or even keloid, with a good result. But just only a few patients wants to have pinpoint bleeding. It may cause downtime like more than 1 week, I think. That's why I hope that PICO laser can give us the good result. I mean, because they have peak power, the highest peak power with the shortest pulse duration, so we can reduce thermal damage, and so we can prevent the ablative result, but we can improve the efficacy of the treatment to remove the abnormal skin layer.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's the point. When you are going after minimally invasive treatments where you like to have practically zero downtime and you want to get improvements, it is always, of course, also connected with multiple sessions because there is a two sides of all of these treatments. One is extremely aggressive, single visit, and the other is nice, gentle, without downtime, without hyperpigmentation, without problems, with multiple treatments. And this kind of multiple treatments already exist, but now with the PICO, everyone is hoping that it will be a little bit more effective with the same level of low intensity. This is the point.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your questions.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aryani. For the next, Dr. David Sudharto, please give question to Zdenko.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask question. Thank you, Mr. Zdenko, for a good and clear presentation. Hello, how are you?
Fine, nice to see you again.
Yeah, regarding that, you said that to treat the tattoo with a combination between full beam and fractionated.
Yes.
So which one go first, full beam or passionate?
That's a very good question, because there is some dilemmas about it. So, on my opinion, and also it is shown by some studies, I hope we will have it published soon, the pre-drilling first is more efficient. But of course, it is a little bit more messy because of some bleeding. And this is why some people said, okay, this blood will be interfering with the full spot and so on. But this is really some very light pill point bleeding, which you wipe off, and then in between two passes of full spots, we are using also some kind of cooling of the area of the tattoo, also for the comfort of patient, and it stops bleeding, in fact. So you have some pinpoint bleeding, you wipe it off, you go with a full spot, and then you go second pass with the full spot again, and so on. So it showed so far, and Dr. Leonardo Marini is the most experienced user of ours, that we can reduce the number of sessions to the half or even more. So the tattoos which were requiring like 15, 20 sessions, now we can solve up to 7 sessions with this kind of protocol. And we found out it's also many times, in spite of this temporary bleeding, it's many times better healing, because you don't have blisters, you don't have the things under the skin. It gets out through these holes and resolve very quickly. So we are very happy with results. Also, we don't have any problems in a sense of adverse effect or whatsoever. And just the thing is that people have to decide to go after it, because it looks very noisy. Now with this silencer, it will be less noisy. It looks very noisy and it looks like aggressive. But if patients are looking for final result, and if you upfront inform them how it will look like in between, I believe a lot of them will decide to go for it because of shorter treatment and quicker full resolution of tattoos.
Thank you. So if we do reversely, do the full beam first and then drilling, so we have to wait until the frosting disappears.
No. You can go quicker. You don't need to. Otherwise, this drilling lose a part of the sense, because with the drilling you speed up the clearance of the frosting. The idea of some colleagues which started firstly with a full spot and then with drilling was that it will not be so that the blood will not interfere with the full beam as, let's say, some kind of competing chromophore. This was the idea, but they were also, all of them are drilling immediately after the full spot, and you make a holes in this frosting, and then frosting clears quicker. I didn't went into it, but this R20 method, which was proposed by Rox Anderson Group in 2012 or 14, it suggested to wait 20 minutes for frosting to clear spontaneously through the skin, which means that the process lasts quite long, and they suggested 4 sessions. So you have frosting, you wait to clearance, you have the second pass, you wait for clearance. So we tried this. We actually tried this when we heard about it, and we found this too long-lasting, too messy, a problem with anesthesia, which is not holding for this long period of time. But it gave us an idea for fractat, in fact. We found out what if we pre-drill, it will be shorter. So we had through many steps, actually. Dr. Marini presented this on 3 or 4 years in the row on the SLMS, how it looks like if he do 2 passes or 3 passes. We never did 4 passes. 2 passes is already much better than single pass. If you want, you can do 3rd pass, which is also give you some additional contribution. But the biggest contribution you get with the 2nd pass.
So when we there is still frosting and we do a drilling, it means we actually the frosting will protect the skin from laser penetration.
Yes, this is why in classical way, if you don't drill it, or if you have just to wait the frosting to clear up to attack again the pigment or the ink. Because the gases, this is millimeter or more. You can see it. It's hypertrophic. You can see it how it looks like. It will not let the beam to come down to the pigment. It will be stopped. This is why people were not doing this. They were either waiting to clear, either said patient to come next time. But now with this technique, we can do multiple passes in one visit, and not waiting 1.5 hours. We can do this in, let's say, 20 minutes.
So the drilling is exactly what the CO2 laser can do, like color blinds.
Yes, you can do. We were at the beginning, I must admit, our first article, you can find it on Laser and Health Academy journal. Our first article is with the pre-drilling with erbium YAG from our dynamis, because we found erbium YAG more gentle than CO2, also in the sense of this bleeding, which is beneficial to take out the pigment. CO2 will, of course, seal the holes, open them for gases, but seal for bleeding. So you can do pre-drilling with the CO2, you can do pre-drilling with erbium YAG, and then shooting with the full spot with the Q-switch laser. But this requires you to have both lasers or several lasers. And the idea was, why should not we offer the user the same laser to do both?
I have another question. Is that for the full beam, the aiming, the size of the aiming beam is will follow the size of the beam size, or always the aiming beam also very tiny spot, or when we use a like for example we use a 5 millimeter spot, the aiming beam we follow it or not? We follow the
aiming beam when you have a larger spot is actually smaller spot in the center. So in past, when we were not using these diffractive optic elements, we were able to follow, like in our older systems, Q-switch systems, the size of the aiming beam was the same as the size of the real beam, which is causing the interaction. But now we have some aiming beams which are giving you central position, and then of course you will get a wider beam around.
So I do think that if the aiming beam will follow the real spot, it's easier for us to do the overlap.
Definitely, it's true. It's true. I will check with our R&D, but I believe it is as I told you.
And also, I have tried another brand. When we step at the pedals and the laser output, it has a slightly delay. And
well,
how about that?
Yeah, it can be very annoying. I agree. I agree. Of course, it's a question of safety. You know, the safety issue is very much present in all of the real good lasers because of regulatory and everyone. So it has to be, all the setting parameters and everything has to be proper set before the laser shoots out. And then it depends also how you check all of these parameters. What is the way of internal checking before it allows laser to shoot? I don't notice a delay when we are doing this shooting. We practically don't have delay. It is also connected with the small sound. We are generating the sound. So when laser is shooting, it's like sound. Now it will shoot. You can follow this as well. Sometimes the interaction is not audible, and also sometimes you don't see the change on the skin after the interaction. So how you know if the laser really shoots or not? This is why we have an audible signal which is inform you now it was shot, was delivered. Of course, it is more aggressive. Like I showed these tattoos, you see the effect, but many times you don't see the effect. So you are not sure if it's shot or not, if the shot was there or not. This is why we give this confirmation sound. Now the laser was really there.
Okay, thanks for that technology, because we tend to see more. We don't see the response.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah, and I have another question again regarding. Meanwhile, everyone is racing for the shortest wavelength, pulse duration. But recently in USA, they are selling ND-YAG with microsecond pulse duration, pulse aerolase. They are promoting for pigment, promoting for everything. A very small and cheap lasers. What do you think?
I know this laser. I know this laser, and they have just this what they have, and they try to make a story out of what they have. So of course, you can treat pigmentations also with microsecond pulses. And this we were doing, and the people are still doing it, counting on thermal effect and some small mechanical effect or acoustic effect. So as you know, you never have a clear interaction just photomechanical without any thermal, and you never have a photothermal without any mechanical. These things are going like this. On one side you have a mechanical, on the other you have thermal, and then you are always having both. So when you are overpassing about 1 microsecond pulse, or even let's say 500 nanosecond pulses, then the thermal interaction become dominant and acoustic become lower. I have somewhere a graph, but I don't have time now to find it to show you. And on the other side, as you are moving toward the shorter pulses, the photomechanical effect becoming dominant and thermal is lower and lower and lower. So you have both effects there. And people are now trying to come into very, very cold area where the thermal effect will be very small. But all what we are doing now is not so far from pico. From nano. I was giving these presentations before. I was showing that the difference between 5 nano and 500 pico in thermal effect and in acoustic effect is not very big. It is present there, but it's not very big. For example, if you look into the ophthalmology, in ophthalmology, people are using femtosecond lasers. So femto, it's 1,000 times shorter than pico. It's not 1 pico. It's shorter than 1 pico. And then if you look into their coldness, it is really something different. But still, if you are using highly absorptive targets, if you are using targets like ink in tattoos or human pigment, this thing is not playing such big role. You know, it's less important than people would like to present it. So 1 microsecond, of course, it will work as well if you have enough energy, but it will produce also additional thermal effect. And this, I know you guys in Asia, you don't like this thermal effects on the skin. This is why, of course, shorter pulses are more popular. But if I'm looking like 15 years back, we have a small laser, Nd:YAG laser, which was long pulse Nd:YAG laser, called Fidelis XP. And a lot of people were buying these lasers for different applications like hair removal, like vascular lesions, occlusion, and so on. And then they ask us, can you produce a shorter than millisecond, like in microsecond range? Because we would like to use them also on pigments with a lower thermal effect. So we introduced so-called frac-3 pulses, which we have in Dynamis. So we have 100 microsecond, 300 microsecond. So these microsecond pulses can be used also for pigmentation. But what you do, you more cook the pigment than you break it. Your breakage power is low, but your thermal destruction power is there. And if you are relatively short, you are less prone to develop hyperpigmentation than with longer. If you work with a millisecond, like 5 milliseconds, you will have definitely, if its intensity is high enough, you will definitely have some hyperpigmentation. But if you work with, let's say, 500 microseconds, it is less danger to produce PIH. So there is a lot of, promotional information out there when people try to promote certain particular pulse duration. I know these guys which you mentioned. They have 650 microsecond long pulse. Yeah. The same as we have in our Dynamis as 600 microsecond frac-3. But we don't make a big story about this 600 microsecond because we also have 300 and 100. So we have shorter. They don't have anything else. They have just this 650 microseconds, and they try to make out of this a big story.
So 650 compared to 200 microseconds, it will make any difference?
It's hotter, a little bit hotter, little bit hotter. But no,
some Korean,
there is.
They have 200 milliseconds.
Sorry. Just to give you the ratio. Yeah. So if we are talking about pulse duration, the next thing which you have to know is what is the fluence or what is energy. And if you have energy, then the peak power is different. So if you have the same energy, same two, let's say 10 joules, and one is 200 microseconds and the other is 650 microseconds, then this one will be higher in peak power.
Yeah.
You understand? This is just a simple formula.
Yeah.
If you have a shorter with the same energy, it will be higher. But the difference between 200 microsecond and 600 microsecond is 3 times only, 3 times. It doesn't play a big role because here we are talking about the kilowatts. We are not talking megawatts or gigawatts. We are talking kilowatts. So if you have 2 kilowatts or 6 kilowatts, I don't see difference.
Okay, sorry to bother.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
hope
for the
it was
Yeah.
clear. I hope, yeah.
Okay, thank you for the question, Dr. David. And for the last question, please, Dr. Natalie.
Mr. Zdenko, as you know, I have a Star Walker already.
Yes, yes, I know. That's the great laser. Star Walker Mach-X is great laser.
Yes, according the fractal, I already used on which Dr. David said that the fractals first or
Second, yeah.
second, I mean, is the Star Walker I have the good result for the tattoo or the melasma also is a good result. And I want to, I already satisfied with my Star Walker. But I have one, I had joined an expert meeting where one of delegate presented about the several cases of tattoo removal using the PICO laser in which the tattoo did not completely disappear. And the panelists, one of the panelists said that the best laser for tattoo removal is still key-sweet laser. According
You
your
mean nanosecond? Yeah.
Yeah, nanosecond. According of your PICO, which the peak power 2.7 and you have the shortest pulse duration. Can the PICO handle this problem? Can your
Yeah.
PICO handle?
Yes, I understand this question. Thank you for it. So when first manufacturer of PICO laser came out, they disappointed a lot of users because they promote it as much better for tattoos than nanosecond lasers. And they promised all of these things which they didn't really fulfill, like a smaller number of sessions, it's less painful, it's almost colorblind, and so on. Nothing of this was fully true. This is also why they were sued by the group of dermatologists in US, that they were misleading the customers. And I heard they are also sued in Australia. So people were exaggerating with the benefits of PICO. On the other side, their not peak power, also peak power, but their energy per pulse was too low. 200 millijoules per pulse. If you need some decent fluence to remove the ink, let's say of 2 joules per centimeter square, you have to work with this kind of energies with very small spots. And then you have also effect of small spots, lower penetration and so on. So they were not so efficient in tattoo removal as they were promising. Of course, later, also the other thing was that the wavelength was not really the best one because most black tattoos are not very optimally treated with 755. But however, later with other PICOs entering the market, people went into Nd:YAG, which is more, let's say, optimized for majority of black tattoos, and also the energies become higher. So you have now energies of 400 millijoules and 600 millijoules, which is more decent, but still low. We have 800 millijoules, so it's higher than the other PICOs, and it is still, I would say, a little bit low for the good large spot tattoo treatment, where you need decent fluence. Let's say on the 6 millimeter spot, if you want to get the 4 joules per centimeter square, you need quite a decent energy per pulse. This is why we started first with the laser which you have, Star Walker Mach-X, in which we introduced twice stronger energy, 1600 millijoules, giving it in a kind of hybrid shape of the pulse. This hybrid shape of the pulse looks like this. It has 5 pico peaks, but together they are coming together with the 1600 millijoules, and they give enough power, enough energy for good fluences. So this is the issue. If you have a problematic tattoo which is resistant, you have on one side, you have to have the proper wavelength for it. You have to have a strong enough energy to be able to work with large spot to eliminate this kind of tattoos. And today's picos don't have yet this. This is why this panelist said the nanosecond lasers are still better, because in nanosecond lasers there are quite some lasers which have more than 1000 millijoules. This is the reason. Not in pulse duration so much, but more how much energy you can deliver in shot on larger spot. With 2 millimeter spot and 6 millimeter spot, it's not equal. You know, with 6 millimeter spot, you will be more efficient even with the same fluence. But if you can deliver strong enough fluence, then you are efficient. And the fractal technique which we introduce is even further improving the quality of clearance. So I would say fractal is superior to any pico, including our pico with a full spot in comparison with fractal. Fractal is superior.
This is the question not for everyone, but for me. In your opinion, if I have the Star Walker, I have to buy pico.
Well, I understand your question, and it's a dilemma probably of many of the people. I am a representative of company who is selling lasers, so I should tell you, yeah, you should buy it, but I will not go so brutally. so we introduced the Star Walker Mach-UX in 2017. This is just 3 years ago. In this period of time, a lot of picos were already on the market, and some people were criticizing us, why you enter with this system and not with the pico. As I told before, we introduced some pico interaction with the skin, also with the system which you have with the Mach-UX. I believe personally, this is my personal opinion, this is good enough for everything. And the Star Walker Mach-UX is much more versatile because you have a long pulse NDAC there, you have long pulse KTP there, you have FRAC3 there. So you have laser which can be a vascular laser, you have laser which can do hundreds of things. But of course, market was looking for pico, single pico. We were criticized by competitors that this hybrid pulse is not good enough. It's more thermal than single pico and so on. So we were also now this presentation is like a launch in Indonesia. We are very late comers to the market with pico. There are already 10 picos there. But there are people who want to have pico because it's now popular, you know. And also there are, I wouldn't deny, there are benefits. There are benefits of extremely high peak power and short pulses for certain particular things. But if this is your only laser in a Q-switch arena, you will be better off with the Mach-UX than with the PEC-UX. I don't know if I directly answered your question, but you know, there are also customers. There are customers which come and said, I would like to be treated with pico. So people have to have offered pico.
Patient know about pico. And
yeah.
And they come, I want to get the pico laser. Yeah, now like
that's true. That's true. And from our point of view, we decided when we come out with some system, we try to make it the top on the market regarding the technical specification. This is a policy of Fotona. This is also why it took us longer time to come out, and it was worthy, I think. Our R&D did excellent job, and I'm sure it will take a long time before anyone else come close to this. What is in PQX.
Okay, thank you so much for all the panelists that has been question to Zdenko, and also thank you to Zdenko for answering the questions. Now I'm going to read the question from the participants. Only one because we have a limited time. I'm going to read one question from Dr. Puspita Ningrum. Thank you, Mr. Zdenko, for your excellent presentation. StarWalker PICO-X, as you said, has shorter pulse duration and higher power compared to other picosecond laser, especially for the diffractive or fractional beam. I hope the result for scars will be better and less session compared to other fractionated picosecond laser. Do you have studies then compared clinically and histologically the StarWalker PICO-X and other picosecond laser?
Yeah, question is good, but unfortunately we don't still have such studies because this laser is relatively new. Before we launch it onto market, of course, we do all clinical validation and tests, but not such kind of study. I am sure this study will come out quite soon because there are users like also among you. I know, as Dr. Aryani says, she already has PICO laser and someone else as well. Such study are coming. Definitely there will be a study which will do comparison between the lasers. What we did in past, before this PICO, we did comparison of our MAC-X and also of our QX with some PICOs which came to the market and show some superiority even then. So I'm not afraid to be compared with any with any of these systems. Okay, Fasya, have you some other question?
Okay. Okay, for another questions, we are very sorry because we have limited time. Our time is finally over. So thank you so much for, sorry, I'm going to.
I saw here in the chat some questions, and one is about this thermal effect of nano comparing to PICO. And if you allow me, it will take me a few minutes. I will just try to find out one particular application because I was trying to explain this to Dr. David verbally, but I have a very nice small graph, and I will try just to show you this graph, nothing else, just to get an idea what we are talking about when people are talking about thermal effect and mechanical effect.
Okay, okay. You can answer that question.
I'm already closing to the.
Do you want to become a host again?
I will share. Yeah, I would like to share now the screen if possible because I found it. Did you give me this? You gave me the right. Okay, I will share the screen. Let me come out with this. So this is one of my older presentations. And I would say whatever I said here is still valid. This is one of the first claims and so on. Okay, this is the graph I wanted to show you. So you have photothermal effect, this is a red line, and you have photomechanical effect, this is a blue line. This graph is conceptual to show you the concept, how it works. It's not exact measure that I would say this is 100 and this is a 20 or something, but just to get an idea. And then you have a pulse durations here. So you see, when these PICOs came out, they were in this range, 750. We are now somewhere here. With 300, we are somewhere here. But let's say 750 PICO against the 5 nanoseconds. So this is the difference in photomechanical and photothermal effect. It exists, but it is small. It is not so much important. And then further on, let me skip this. Some studies which were done in past, even with very short pulses, was not finding a very big difference in mechanical effect and so on. But I would like to show you this graph. I mentioned before femtosecond lasers, they are here. This is 1 pico, 10 pico, 100 pico, 1000 pico, and this is femto. Look at these curves. Those curves are showing the difference in interaction in the skin depending on pulse duration. So what we are doing now, and when we are not talking about pigments and when we are not talking about tattoos, are these curves, A and B. A is a porcine cornea, which is quite transparent, and B is some gel which is stimulating, or C stimulating the skin. D curve is a tattoo ink, or it's a human pigment. What you can notice for D curve, it's almost flat. The difference between 1 pico and 1 nano is not very significant. Nowadays, we have pico somewhere here. Okay, I can move it now with 300 pico somewhere here. you can see these curves. They are showing some difference. In the skin, when we are doing rejuvenation, when we are doing LIOB, whatever we are doing, we are getting difference between 1 nano and let's say 500 pico. But in a pigmented skin and tattoo ink, this difference is really minuscule. And also the first, okay, I can show you all of these. This was published in 2015 after 3 sessions. For me, this is not really some brilliant result. And if I'm looking in our nanosecond laser, this is after 4 sessions. So look at this difference. So this pico was not really good pico for this kind of clearance. Okay, I will not bother you with everything. If someone is interested, I can show you all of this, but there are published studies when you can see this comparison. For example, this was done after 13 picos, 13 pico treatment after this one. It's not really impressive. And this is a study from UK in which they were comparing pico laser and nano laser, a good nano laser on this kind of black tattoo. And there is no statistically significant, no clinically relevant difference between the picosecond and nanosecond laser in terms of therapeutic outcome. This is what they concluded. So this is a short answer regarding the temperature and so on. Of course, as I said, there are benefits for pico, and this is why people like it, especially I would say in this minimal invasive treatment on the skin, which is not very strongly tattooed or pigmented. Okay, I think the answer to this question, if you compare nano and pico regarding the thermal effect, was done. This was one of the questions from the chat. So I will not bother you anymore. I know it's late in your country. We all also spent the full 2 hours now. In 5 minutes, it will be 2 hours. What to say? I would like to thank you all for participating. I see that there was a lot of participants, almost 200 participants. I hope it was interesting for all of you. I also hope it was informative. And I believe you got an idea about our new ecosystem. I will just repeat the beginning. This is the best ecosystem in this moment on the market. Thank you very much for listening.
Mr. Zdenko, can I have one more question?
Of course.
If we have nanosecond and picosecond, and in the first case of tattoo camp, we treat with nanosecond first for a few first sessions, and then followed by picosecond. So all of this combination can shorten or can shorten the treatment cost. What do you think?
Well, this strategy which you mentioned was shown a few times. Some people were recommending this, and they are showing some pictures in which they said that, okay, if you use nano, you break these pigments into some bigger, like pebbles, and then when pebbles remain, you break them with pico to the sand. Well, these stories are stories, I would say. If you have a good nanosecond laser, you can do very decent job in tattoo removal. If you are talking about tattoo removal, and if you are not afraid of this very small thermal effect. But where is the difference? If you are able, this is a question of system now, if you are able to achieve the same conditions, let's say the same spot size, the same fluence in nano and pico, the pico will have a higher peak power and be more efficient. That's the fact. But the problem is that the pico systems so far were not able to achieve the same settings. They were lower. So here you have nano and here you have pico. You understand this comparison? If you are able to push the pico parameters on the same level as nano, let's say on a 6 millimeter spot, to achieve the same fluence, then you will have little bit better results with pico. That's true. But the problem was that people were not able to make them equal. Usually with pico, they were weaker in treatment than with nano. This is the reason why some people said better use nano, but not because of this bigger or smaller pebbles. I don't buy this.
But for PQX, Skywalker PQX have enough power.
Well, I would say almost enough power to be excellent also for tattoo removal, even with the classical way with the full spot. With the fractate, definitely. Definitely. But as Natalia said, she has very good experience with the Mach-X, which has a double energy, 1600 millijoules, in this kind of hybrid shape of pulse. But with a single pulse like this, you have just 800. But 800 is still much stronger, even, let's say, 6-7 times stronger than the first picos.
And I have another question, last question, is mostly used by aesthetic doctors. It's used for so-called toning. Yeah,
toning,
so we have
yes.
nano toning and pico toning. Which one is? Because we know that nano toning already causes side effect. There is a spot hypopigmentation, and that come maybe years later. And how about pico second toning?
Well, definitely, if you use the same setting again, you will have a higher peak power. You have colder, little bit colder interaction, so you will be able to break these pigments. Let's say gentler. But otherwise, the idea of toning is to go with a very mild parameter and to shake and break this pigment in a way that it is not very aggressive. And this is the reason why some people go into fractional now, because with fractional, what you achieve, you are on each of these microbeam, you are quite aggressive, but your coverage rate is like a few percent. So you are in generally less aggressive, much less aggressive. And then it can be more efficient on these microbeams for this particular micro area of pigment, then will be, let's say, much lower intensity toning. This is a compromise. All of us, we are looking for some good compromise between the side effects and effect. And I think toning so far with the full spot with picos and toning with the full spot with nano, I haven't seen a study to show some dramatic difference in effect or in side effects. But when you start to enter this area of the non-ablative fractional pico, then you can get some maybe better effect. Because even if you are looking into nanosecond lasers, who is fractionated nanosecond lasers? None aside of Fotona. You cannot find a nanosecond Q-switch fractionated. Only Fotona has it because we did it because of fractate. So idea of fractionated Q-switch in general is rather new. And the idea is similar like in the fractional ablation or non-ablative in past, with the long pulse lasers to be less aggressive, to get just maybe 5% of tissue treated and 95% untouched. And then you are definitely less aggressive.
So when we use a very low fluence with a fractionated, and it means that 1 pixel, the spot is very small. And how about the penetration? It can penetrate deep enough?
Penetration is dependent on 2 things, you're right, on the spot size and the other side on the wavelength. You know, chromophore is stopping it. So if you have epidermal things, no problem with this. If you have dermal things, then of course it can be less penetrating. And this is why people start to play with the LIOBs. What does it mean? They are going with the focuses beneath the surface. So your focus is beneath the surface and you can go with this spot deeper. Because as smaller the spot is, the less penetration you will have, of course.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Zdenko.
You're welcome.
And all
I
the
hope you got
panelists.
your answers. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so insightful.
Thank you, Dr. Lila.
Okay, thank you so much, Zdenko, for the amazing presentation. Also for all the panelists, thank you for your amazing Q&A time. Now I'm going to, because our time is already over, I'm going to close this webinar, and I'm going to give some information for our participant. Oke, terima kasih untuk seluruh rekan dokter yang kami hormati yang sudah berpartisipasi dalam webinar ini, dan masih bersama kami ada sekitar 150 orang yang masih berpartisipasi bersama kami. Dengan senang hati kami umumkan bahwa kedepannya Fotona Indonesia akan melakukan webinar-webinar selanjutnya dengan topik dan pembicara yang berbeda-beda, baik lokal maupun internasional. Lalu saya akan memberikan informasi dari tim marketing Fotona Indonesia. Oke, sebelum kita mengakhiri webinar malam ini, saya ingin menyampaikan info terlebih dahulu. Yang pertama, AKL Fotona PICO Laser baru saja keluar di minggu ini. Lalu promo diskon 30% selama 6 bulan pertama peluncuran Fotona PICO berlaku dari sekarang sampai 31 Maret 2021 dengan spesifikasi basic. Dengan informasi ini, apabila ada rekan dokter yang tertarik dan ingin menanyakan hal-hal lain tentang Fotona PICO Laser, dapat langsung menghubungi tim marketing PT ABA yang bisa dokter lihat di layar ya. Ada yang dengan nama Ilham, Yunia, Putri, dan juga Fatra. Ya, sekian informasi dari saya. Thank you so much for all the panelists and also for Zdenko. But before we close this webinar, can we take a picture together?
Of course, you should just ask other people to open the video.
Okay, where is Dr. Aryani? Can Dr. Aryani join us? Dr. Aryani. Okay, please make pose. Anything? 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much for everyone. Thank you for participating in this webinar. Thank you and good night and have a nice night. Good night everyone.
So
see you on our next webinar.
Bye-bye to everyone. Bye-bye.
Terima kasih kepada semua panelis. Terima kasih, selamat malam. Good night Zdenko. Good afternoon.